Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Nick's Aviation channel. And today we are starting off a new series. We're going to be rating airlines that me and the other people in my family have flown on. Today we're doing mine, so I'm going to label this my airline tier list. All right. So now I'm going to create a little table so then we can rate it, and there are going to be 5 ratings. There's going to be S, A, B, C, and D. S being the very best that I've flown on, and D being actually the very worst. So we're going to leave a bunch of space. And now I do have the airlines logos in here uploaded in my computer. So if I go insert image and I upload it from my computer, I have to select Sunwing, Air Transat, and these are actually I'm going to be recording with a bunch of all of these because my dad has flown on most of these, but I have not. I have flown on some of these, I think 14 airlines. But today we're going to be reviewing those, and I'm quite excited for this. All right, so here we go. We have lots of airlines to choose from to start off. And you know what? We're just going to go through these airlines like so, kind of as the list goes on, as you can see. So we have Sunwing, Air Transat, Eastern Airlines, Aeroflot, Air France, WestJet Encore, United Express, United, Air Canada, Jazz, Jets, Rouge, and Mainline. So I know you're going to be like, oh, what's the difference? Well, there's actually a big difference between, for example, Air Canada and Air Canada Rouge. Like Air Canada Rouge, it's the low cost equivalent. It's the low cost Air Canada, basically. That's the vacation airline as well for Air Canada, and also the airline that I fly on a lot to Phoenix, Arizona. So today we're going to start off with Sunwing Airlines. So I've flown Sunwing Airlines a total of, I believe, 6 times. I've flown from Toronto, which is my home and where I usually fly out of. I flew from Toronto to Kyoto and Kyoto back, and then Toronto Holguin back, and then I flew Toronto Punta Cana back. But that was actually a charter, a wet lease, I believe, from Eastern Airlines, which actually went bankrupt the same year, or actually I think the year before. But it was all Eastern staff, but I will definitely be reviewing Eastern later. So Sunwing Airlines. In my opinion, Sunwing, it's a good vacation airline. We had vacation bundles, and I can really say that you can't really be upset with a flight when you're going to some place like Cuba or the Dominican Republic. But I do have to say, the in-flight entertainment, there was barely any. There were screens that came down from the ceiling every few rows that they chose the movie. And I mean, the movie choices were good in my opinion, but I still like the personal and seat selection. Well, being able to select from your seat the movie that you want to watch. There was also a lot of delays with Sunwing. We got stuck in, I think, Holguin on our way back for 2 hours. But they did give me, a little package of stuff like coloring books, and this was a while ago, so I really enjoyed coloring books. I do kind of now, but not as much, But I also gave me a beach ball, which I used in Cuba, and I'm gonna give them a B. I think they're good for being a vacation airline, a charter airline, but not one of the better charter airlines. And going along with the charter airline trend, I'm going to continue with Air Transat. So I've only flown Air Transat twice. on an Airbus A321-200 to Cancun, and then an Airbus A330-300 back home. By the way, on Sunwing, the flight to Cayo Coco was on a 737 Max 8, and the flight to Holguin was on a 737-800. So, actually, quite cool. So, Air Transat, I had two very different experiences with them. One was with family, and one was by myself. They treated me a lot differently when I was by myself, and I'm gonna focus primarily on that. So, or actually, I'm gonna focus on both of them. First of all, the cabin. It was beautiful. It was very clean, and you did have good legroom, and I loved the dynamic lighting on board. That was just, it was pretty. There was beautiful, like, I think it was blue and purple lights on the A330. On the A320, we didn't have that because we were flying in the day, but on my way home, I arrived in Toronto late in the evening. So when I was by myself, they gave me free food, which tasted very good for airplane food, in my opinion. The cabin crew was also very, very nice. And I was in a row that I was sitting all by myself because they placed me in the back on purpose. So then I think I was the first one to board, but also the last one to disembark. And that was nice because then I actually got to catch a view at the Air France A350-900, which that was the first time I've ever seen an A350, but that was also the first time I realized that Air France had removed the Boeing 777-300ER from its route from Toronto to Paris CDG, and they rostered their new Airbus A350-900. But Air Transat, they treated me very nice, and they treated me like a king. They also always would check in, but it was not really like annoying. It was nice, and the food was great. And let me tell you something about the in-flight entertainment. Very good like personal seat screens, which I always enjoyed. They had games, they had movies, and it was a big selection. I wouldn't say it's as big as something maybe like when I was on Air France, but definitely a great selection of movies, and I did enjoy my flight, and I'm definitely going to put Air Transat at, I'm going to give them actually just an A, because there wasn't free food on the way there, but we did pay for it, and the food that we did pay for was actually quite good. Now, I'm going to be doing another charter, Eastern Airlines. So, I flew the kind of reincarnation of the airline that came back to the commercial aviation scene in 2015, but later went bankrupt in 2017. And my flight to Punta Cana from Toronto and back were both on 767-300ERs, which it was nice. The seat was nice and wide. I had lots of legroom, and this wasn't in business class. This was in economy. We had free food. The cabin crew was very nice. Sadly, there was no in-flight entertainment, but the food tasted very nice. I had a nice warm chicken wrap, but sadly, they didn't have enough of, for example, the breakfast sandwich, which I would have rather had. So that's why I think I'm going to give Eastern Airlines a B with Sunwing. Next, I'm going to rate Aeroflot. So Aeroflot, I flew when I was going from Paris CDG to Moscow. And when I flew from Paris to Moscow, I was flying on a Sukhoi Superjet 100, which it was a very different experience than my flight back from Moscow to Paris on an A320-200. The Sukhoi Superjet, it was very loud. It was also, the cabin was quite crammed. I don't really remember the configuration. I think it was either a 3-2 or a 2-2. Maybe it could have been a 3-3. But seat legroom, it was actually good because we were in an emergency exit row. I think we were actually near the back door. But on our way there, they actually gave me a little package with a nice puzzle and nice information about kind of Aeroflot as well, and a nice little activity book, which I did enjoy. And Aeroflot's food. that's just a different story. Aeroflot's food was just incredible. That was probably the best airplane food that I've ever had, aside from Air France, which I will get into later. I think we didn't have any actual Russian cuisine on board. There were options for that, but I remember having pasta, which it was very nice. You know, it was kind of traditional airplane food. It doesn't look appetizing, but then when you actually take a bite of it, it's great. So that's why. Oh, also the in-flight entertainment on the Sukhoi Superjet there was none for some reason, but on their way back with the A320-200 there was. But I didn't mind on the Sukhoi with none because I focused on actually doing the puzzle and putting together a Lego set that I bought in Toronto before we went. And that's why I'm giving Aeroflot a nice big S. Next, Air France. So Air France I flew when I was actually on my way to Moscow, except we flew from Toronto Lester B. Pearson to Paris Charles de Gaulle. We flew on a Boeing 777-300ER until they removed that from their route and rostered the A350-900. But this was an incredible experience. The biggest movie selection I've ever had on board an aircraft, ever. Nice legroom because once again we were sitting in an emergency exit row. And the food, that was even better. So I believe I had a pizza actually on board, and I that was one of the best pizzas I've ever had, other than all the pizzas that I had in Italy, because there's nothing you can really do. It's Italy, you know? And that is why I'm gonna give Air France a nice S, along with Aeroflot. I am sorry, give me 1 second. Alright. Sorry.